a teenager in the 2000s and I got suspended from school my freshman year of high school. And during those few weeks of suspension, I had nothing better to do with my time than to spend it on the internet. And back then, all the emo scene kids were trying to get MySpace famous by adding pretty much everybody that they could and building a platform on there. And I was like, oh, I think I'll try this. So that's what I did for those 3 weeks of suspension is I was on MySpace all day, every day, trying to build a platform. I made the perfect profile. I took the perfect MySpace photos, dressed up like the perfect MySpace emo scene girl. And then I added everybody that I could possibly add, trying to build my friend count up. And one of the accounts that I added, I had seen the photos around the internet before, but they always had a different name on a different account. And this specific account, the name was Jacob D. And he added me and he immediately started talking to me. And I talked it back to him for a couple weeks before I was like, dude, I keep seeing your pictures on other accounts with different names. If you want to keep talking to me, you need to add me on MSN Messenger and turn your webcam on so that I can see you're the real person. And he did that immediately. He was the real person. And after that, we continued to talk every single day for months. And we finally decided, you know what? We want to meet in person. Let's really take this to real life and actually see each other in real life. And the problem with this is that we lived 6 hours away from each other. However, in the state that we lived in, you could get your license at 15. And he did have his license. I just didn't have mine. But we decided that if we were still talking Warped Tour 2008, we would meet up at Warped Tour 2008 at this specific band. And so time goes by and I'm still talking to this dude every single day, and it becomes time for Warped Tour 2008. So I go to Warped Tour 2008, he goes to Warped Tour 2008, and we meet up at that specific band. And that is the very first time that I met him in real life. And after that, we continued talking pretty much every single day as friends for a few months. And then we decided that we were going to try a relationship. But again, we still lived 6 hours away from each other. So he drove down that November so that we could go on our first official date together. And we went and we saw the Twilight movie premiere in theaters. And then in 2009, I had our first son. And that poor kid wore Twilight merch so often as a baby because I thought it was so funny that our first date was the Twilight premiere, and my husband's name is Jacob, and so I had him in the Team Jacob onesies all the time. Anyways, it has now been 18 years, and MySpace is coming back apparently, so now everybody else gets to have a chance at an emo love story from MySpace. So I have a really funny story about this. So a couple months ago, I posted a video about the emo and scene kid culture during the MySpace days, and I was really just talking about the things that we were doing to try to achieve MySpace fame. I went over the trains, I went over the vanity and the glamour groups, I went over site modeling, but what I did not specifically cover was whore for whoring. And after the video was posted, I got a comment from one of my mutuals on there, and she put W4W in all caps with a bunch of question marks after it, and she was instantly attacked by people. They were like, why would you ask her if she's gay right now? What does her being gay have to do with anything? She's definitely not gay. She has a husband and she talks about him on here pretty regularly, and this is disrespectful. She was getting eaten up in these comments. It was so freaking funny because if you don't know what W4W means, it meant whore for whoring. And whore for whoring was just what we called it on MySpace back in the day when we would promote our friends. So what we would do is we would make a bulletin and we would title it something like, oh my gosh, go add my friend Cassie Cutthroat, she is super hot. And then you would open the bulletin and there would be a giant picture of me in there with a link to my profile, and they would post it for all of their MySpace friends to go add me, and then in exchange I would post the exact same bulletin but about them for all of my friends to go add them, so that way we could both grow our friend count so we could become more MySpace famous. My mom grounded me from technology every time I got in trouble when I was a teenager. People keep asking why I was allowed on MySpace when I got suspended from school when I was a freshman. I wasn't. I was just on there anyway. I was definitely grounded from technology, but it was back in the early 2000s. Technology was still new and there was a lot more loopholes for it. And so when my mom would leave every day, she would take the cord from the router and she would put it in her purse and she would take it with her. But I very quickly discovered that the exact same cord was used in the back of our copy machine / fax machine thing that she had in her office at home. And so I would just immediately go and get that cord and put it in the back of the internet box, and I would be able to use the internet again. And then there was a time when she would change the password on my computer to something I didn't know that she only knew, so then I couldn't get into my computer at all. But she would type in the password for me so that I could access it when I was allowed to access it when she was home. And so to do do that, she never actually came into the library where our computer was. She would just stand outside the window and I would hand her the keyboard and she would type in the password and she couldn't see the screen. So I would click in the username section and she typed the password in there and then I learned what the password was so that I could gain access to my computer that way. She would also take away my sidekick all the time, and she had gotten me a sidekick for Christmas my freshman year, but before that I had the cherry blossom hot pink Motorola Razr, and when she got me the sidekick, I never got rid of my Razr. So every time she would take my sidekick away from me, I would just take out the SIM card before I gave it to her, and then I would put it in my old Razr, and then I would use that for a phone until I got my sidekick back. There was literally a loophole for everything back in the day.